It's called job search. He'd been working at the same job for 19 years and was recently feeling ambivalent about it, so he thought he'd look for a new job. Nothing lasts forever, he'd been told as a younger person. Maybe it was time for a change, if in fact he wanted to abide by what he'd been told, and he did, or at least that's what he thought. But since he'd been doing the same job for most of his working life, it was difficult to know what else he might be good at, or for that matter, even what else he might like to do. One doesn't just wake up one morning and change everything. He'd been told that too. It isn't as if midway through the journey of our life one finds oneself in a dark wood having strayed from the straight path and into tangled ground, and then some benevolent, laurel-headed guide shows up to lead us into the paradisical light. That sort of thing only happens in books. Maybe it ends well, but very often it doesn't. Life is so much more gradual than that, a process that degrades over time. He'd been around a while and wasn't naive enough to think it'd be easy to find and do something else. He knew that no matter how long he waited, no one would come to help him. That instead, he'd have to tear himself out of the body he'd come to know through long practice and put on, with difficulty, a whole new one. He was determined, however, so he got out the dictionary and started looking up words for jobs he'd heard of but never tried. He studied their definitions, descriptions, and etymologies because whatever new thing he decided to do, he wanted to know exactly what he'd be getting into. Pugilist, beekeeper, chocolatier, copywriter, postal clerk, non-profiteer. Maybe he'd be an EMT or a shepherd, a barista in a coffee shop, or a tattoo artist. But every new job had its drawbacks. Some were just impractical this late in his life. Others that seemed promising at first, upon further reflection, would get boring over time. And whatever he chose to do, he knew it would have to stick. He wouldn't get another chance. He might get to work another 20 years at best. It was the hardest decision he'd ever make in his life. So he kept looking and studying, testing his hypotheses and patience and mind, and meanwhile, his 19-year-old job was turning 20 and 21, was moving into a whole new stage of the life of what it was. The job was changing radically, even while the search for a new job continued. He almost didn't know what he was doing at work anymore. Didn't recognize his job as the one he'd done for all those many years. The one that for a time he'd even fallen in love with. What he wouldn't do to find that love again. But it was impossible. The job he once knew was now stranger to him than the new jobs he was researching in the dictionary. Even more alarming, he too, when he looked in the mirror, didn't seem like himself, was stranger and stranger. It occurred to him that maybe he had changed as much as the job, or maybe only he had changed, and the job had stayed the same, just the way he'd found it, or left it, or both, all those many years ago. It took a while for him to notice, since he was so intensely focused, but eventually, whenever he looked up, from his research, the sky was mostly dark, no matter the time of day or night. And when you look back down, the dictionary too was dark. The definitions and etymologies more and more impenetrable, more and more a bramble crag. Still, the search for a new job continued, even in the dark. It was a long and lonely road. Occasionally, a garbage truck bellowed by in the street, or the moon, with its white gold indifference, tried to glow. He knew he needed to take a furtive leap into the darkness itself, but the years in a rush kept barreling by. He just couldn't bring himself to do anything else. But then one night, near the end of his search, he looked up from the words on the dictionary page and was flooded with a memory of a dog he'd seen a long time ago on a trip he'd done for work. He was driving at night in Wisconsin or Indiana, the middle of nowhere, and the poor wet thing, a farm dog of some kind, was lost on the interstate, scrambling back and forth with cars and trucks roaring by, some of them slowing down, but others just going. And the dog, Terrified and confused, zigzagging in the glare of the headlights coming off the highway, it looked exhausted but also resplendent, its tongue hanging out, desperate for any exit from its current electrified, untenable predicament. But the cars were so fast and so blurry all around it. It was stuck in a process of wild reactivity. What else could it do but pinball like that? Thing to thing to thing to thing. Driving that night, the man had felt sorry for the dog, but he too kept going. There was no good place to stop, and he was in a hurry for the job. Heavy-lidded and thus reminded, the man came back to himself, back to his search and the pressure of his need. But when he looked down at the words were only speed. Nothing at all in the atmosphere was clear. Outside, something gasped, for it was rain. Thank you so much.
Yeah.